And good morning, Birds fans. It's a midweek edition of Birds 365, Hump Day, Wednesday, which means we've got John McMullen here at the top of the show. We were planning on having Jeff Kerr break down the communications. Unfortunately, Mr. Kerr can't join us, so you can get stuck with me all day. You were going to be stuck with me anyway, but we'll work some other aspects into the show. We got Jason Cole, national football writer, to join us next hour, but Johnny Mac and I will give you a solid half hour of Eagles insight here. What insight did you glean from Coordinator Tuesday yesterday, John McMullen?
That's a good question, Joe. To start off, I got to think, was there much to glean? I thought it was a weird week from the defensive perspective. Like I said, there wasn't a lot to complain about, but I don't know what it really means against an offense that was as limited as the New York Giants. And then we find out later in the day that Daniel Jones, oh, by the way, got hurt early in the game, was playing through it. And he might be forced to miss a game or two for the Giants, and we'll see how that shakes out moving forward. They signed Jake Fromm, who I know you're a fan of the Buffalo practice squad, so he's going to be their backup if Daniel Jones can't go this week. And then, from the special teams perspective, there was a little Jalen Reagor returner questioning.
How'd that go?
Well, it's the same as the receiver. I think, but I have a little bit more problem with it than I do at receiver. I get why they keep playing him at receiver, and I think that's more an indictment of Howie Roseman and the options, and we talked a little bit about that yesterday. At returner, I think they have some options, and Quez Watkins not being one of them. I thought he was even worse as a kick returner early in the season than Jalen. But I think Boston Scott has proven in the past that, look, he's not Cordero Patterson, but he's okay, and he'll get the yardage that's there, and he can return punts as well, and I think the same thing. I think the most disappointing return to me was the last return, and it wasn't, Jalen got 9 yards, I think, and quick. It was a bad punt. You remember, the game seemed over after the Boston Scott fumble,
right.
And all of a sudden the Eagles go out there. They stop the Giants really quickly. They get the ball right back. Riley Dixon with a really bad punt. Not a ton of hang time, maybe a little weather related. We're finally getting into that. I think we're in December. I got to check my calendar. So weather starts to become an issue when you talk about kicking. And it was all set up, and there was room, and he just kind of took the 9 yards, and that was it. And I don't know. He was supposed to be an explosive player, and that's a chance. Hey, Miracle Meadowlands, what better place to amplify that as a punt return that can make a difference late in the game? I don't know. I don't know. This team keeps defaulting to this player, and it's a concern for me. It's certainly a concern for the fan base, and I don't get it. He's played himself off the field, so take him off the field.
Let me ask you about something you just mentioned, because I had Ricky Ricardo. I know you know Ricky well, the voice of the Eagles in Espanol. I was on WIP last night, and Ricky was testing out his home broadcast equipment. Don't ask me what he was doing or why he was doing it at 1 o'clock in the morning, but he was. And I come back from a break, and my producer tells me, hey, Ricky Ricardo's on the line. He said, if you want to shoot the breeze with him, he'll hop on with you for a couple minutes. Of course I'll punch Ricardo up. And he was up at the MetLife Stadium for the game on Sunday. They were broadcasting on the road, which is a good thing. Means that we're advancing a little bit in our ongoing battle against COVID. So Ricky was actually there. And he said he thought the wind was a factor in Sunday's game, and that it may have had a Jalen Hurts ball or two hang up a little bit. I've certainly have spent too many games at the Meadowlands when it was Giant Stadium, and certainly now in the new MetLife Stadium as a jet ticket guy. It didn't seem that way to me. Now, I'm judging it from right over there on my couch. So what the hell do I know? I wasn't really there, but I've seen so many games played there. I think I can tell when the wind is a factor. And it didn't seem like that was the case on Sunday. I can guarantee tell you that is less of a case in the new stadium than it was in the old stadium. The old stadium, the wind could really play tricks on you, and it blew through that stadium very harshly. And it's not the same anymore. It's still the Northeast in late October. It wasn't quite, excuse me, late November, wasn't quite December yet. But I didn't think the wind was a big player in the game on Sunday. You were there. Now you're in an enclosed press box, but you've certainly got a better look than any of us schmucks on TV. How big a factor was it?
Well, I'll say this, and you just said it. I mean, there's been a lot of wind games at the Meadowlands over the years. In the old stadium, Parcells used to open up the doors, so to speak, and play tricks, and it wasn't like that.
I actually think, sorry to interrupt, I actually think the Link is more of a wind-affected stadium than is MetLife.
Yeah, you have the one open end that kind of screws with some people, especially kickers at Lincoln Financial Field during weather games, obviously. And that's why as we get into December and January, that stuff's going to pick up. It was cold. I think it was about mid-30s. I know the wind chill was under 32 when the game started, but I mean, it was less than 10 miles an hour. It was probably in the 5, 6, 7 range, and occasionally a gust can come up, but it didn't have a major effect on the game. I wouldn't say that. And especially compared to other games, as you well know, at the Meadowlands complex as a whole, there could be some nasty games there. This was not, except for a little bit of a chill. This was not a bad weather game.
That's the way that I thought it played. I was surprised that Ricardo said what he did. But I'm not going to, and I don't want to look to make an excuse for Jalen Hurts because he had certainly his worst game of this year, probably comparable to any of the games that he had last year. And his status is up on the air for this weekend against the Jets up in that same building we were just referencing. And Shane Steichen didn't give you any extra information because I know the head coach said on Monday, yeah, we'll probably have a little bit better read on Wednesday, which is basically passing the buck down the line. Shane Steichen didn't pick the ball up and run with it, did he?
Yeah, well, actually a little bit more than you would expect, in the fact that he did admit that Gardner Minshew was at the complex and they're preparing him to be ready to play with the caveat of they hope Jalen plays, they plan on Jalen playing, but they have to be ready if he can't play. So it was a little bit more than I thought we would get. Today's obviously a far bigger day. Ultimately, I still think, and mainly because Nick Sirianni's been doing this all year with injured players, he thinks he has a competitive advantage, and he plays that card really hard. And I think it's overblown, overrated. Yes. But he does it, and I think he's going to do it with Jalen Hurts. So I expect him to be limited today, and he'll probably say it's going to go one of two ways. He might say he's not playing. If he really is hurt and he really want to play, we're going to be that limited, and we're going to see how it goes the rest of the week. Try to push it off as much as possible, and then by Friday, and he won't have an injury designation, and you'll know he'll be ready to go. It seems like a bunch of nothing, but I don't know. He's not and by the way, he's not the only coach that does that. I mean, you go back last week to Joe Judge. Not everybody in the world knew Freddie Kitchens was calling plays, and he was still trying to play around. Well, I don't know. We'll see, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, coaches are just weird when it comes to that.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Right, that's the beauty of a live broadcast. Every once in a while, the feed just goes out on you, and you're sitting here going, staring at a green screen. I got a green screen behind me. I'm not supposed to have a green screen in front of me on my computer, but we did. All right, so glad to be back here on Birds 365. McDonald and McMullen hanging with you. JM, we were talking about how the Eagles ferret out information on whether players are going to play or not. I don't think they're Well, I do think I should correct that. I do think they're purposefully willing and able to not put forth exactly all the information they have. And as you mentioned, the coach believes he gets a bit of a competitive advantage with that I think is kind of overstated. But as far as Jalen's ability to play, the Eagles have X amount of hours a week they can practice, same as every other team in the National Football League. And I know this is the head coach's first year, and we're judging him and how he dispenses information and then makes decision about injured players. We have not had any question with Jalen Hurts this year, so we have no track record to run on how he handles a quarterback that might not be able to practice as much as he usually does going up to a game. If that's the case, I'm going to ask you to speculate here a little bit here for me, J-Mac. He has done it with other players at other positions, and you said even hoodwinks, both us and the supposed opposition heading into a game during the week. Do you think how much Jalen Hurts practice is this week will affect the decision as to whether he will or won't play Sunday against the Jets?
It's an interesting question because there is a difference between veteran players who have done it for a long time and kind of know how to get through things without practice versus a very young quarterback, still young in his career, obviously still learning on the job, and practice and all that kind of stuff is very important. And then you have, obviously, you're playing the most important position on the field. That's very integral to everybody else as well. So you have that difficult balancing act of trying to get Gardner Minshew ready just in case.
Right.
So I do think there's no question Minshew's reps will be ramped up during the week. is it going to be 50-50? Is it going to be 80-20? Typically, and I don't know if people know this or not. I mean, the first string quarterback gets all the first team reps. I mean, there's no, if they're healthy, there's no, we'll mix in this guy. Now, yeah, occasionally, and I would joke about this during training camp. You probably remember, Jody, somebody's got to tie a shoe. Somebody's got to go to the bathroom, little stuff like that. You got to jump in and take a rep. Never happened with Jalen Hurts. Never missed one preseason rep as the starting quarterback for the Eagles. So it's definitely a bit of a change. I think it more has to do with, do they feel he can be effective if he's limited? We look at the best quarterbacks in this league. In my opinion, the best remains Aaron Rodgers. People can debate that. He's playing with whatever's got going on with his toe, the broken toe, whatever. He's limited. He's playing pretty well. Check out his numbers over the last couple games with the toe injury. But he's got to go about it a little bit differently. He's not going to move around as much. He's not going to, and he's a sneaky mobile quarterback, as you know. He's willing to run the football when you give it to him. But that's a little bit limited. In the case of Jalen Hurts, it's the biggest part of his game is the running game. 77 yards against the Giants, really effective, almost 10 yards a carry. And this is every week. That's not an outlier.
No.
I heard that from some of the Giants fans. Well, we did pretty good against the run. If you take Jalen Hurts out of it, well, you can't take Jalen Hurts out of it, and that's every week. And that's why the Eagles have been rushing for 200 yards, almost every game, 4 out of 5, dating back over a month now. You take that from his repertoire, and he's sitting back in the pocket, and he's got to play a little bit differently. I don't know if the Eagles are comfortable with that. So that enters into the equation. He can certainly do it. The question is, can he do it effectively?
Right.
And if he can't run the football, that's the bigger question the Eagles have to ask themselves. Not only who gives them the better opportunity to beat the New York Jets, do you want them out there, for lack of a better description, to play poorly? It's a difficult decision.
And the reason why I think it's even more difficult, 2 points, is because whatever practice they'll get later in the week, Friday, the key practice they have on Friday, you're going to tell your defensive guys, try and make this as game-like conditions as you can, because they're trying to judge whether Jalen can do what Jalen does, which is take off and make plays with his legs. But they're so accustomed to not putting pressure on the quarterback in practice that it's going to be a change of mind that, we want to make Jalen feel this, but we don't want to hurt him because he's got the bum ankle and they don't want to hurt him anyway because he's their starting quarterback. I don't know if they can even get the right read that they'll be looking for to make that call on him. So it's kind of tough to make a call on a quarterback, as you say, still relatively early in his career, as to whether in practice can even give you enough information to make the right call as to whether to put a guy up there. The guy who's the all-time greatest, as far as I'm concerned, see if you agree or disagree with this. The guy would basically never practice. Every single week, the practice reports would come in injured on the sideline, not practicing, questionable for the game on Sunday. And then he would play every single week. And you could never tell that he missed. If you didn't know, if they didn't have to report it, you would have no clue whatsoever that this guy was not taking any practice snaps all week long, and then would show up on Sunday and play the way he was supposed to play, basically on a week in, week out basic. Guy in the last 20 years. Who do you think I'm referring to?
Didn't practice at all, showed up and played. Are we talking about a quarterback?
Correct, the quarterback.
Who didn't practice?
Top level quarterback too. Top 10 basically throughout his entire career.
I mean, there's a lot of guys. I mean, Brett wouldn't practice a lot, Brett Favre, because he was always banged up. But he played
every week. This guy was absolutely the same as Brett Favre. I think maybe even more so.
No, I don't know who you're going with as far as not practicing. The way Brett played, he would always be banged up, and obviously he would always go. But who are you?
The guy I'm remembering, and yeah, if you're looking at the lines of the games every single week, you look at, so you factor that in. Oh, he's not practicing. How will that affect this game? Steve McNair. Never ever practiced. He never practiced. He would, as soon as like the season would start, I think he kind of jaked it and said, "Oh, I've determined I don't need to practice, so why should I practice?" And he'd come out and be Steve McNair every single week, even though he never took a snap in practice.
He was a big physical guy as well, and he took a beating. Those two, that's a good one. Those two are very comparable in the fact that they always showed up. But it does happen later in their careers, obviously, when they've proven themselves and they understand the offense and they're deeply, deeply entrenched in it. I think it's a lot different for young quarterbacks. Typically, when they can't practice, they don't play. So it's big. And, Jalen was able to finish the game, but you that happens all the time as well when you're in the game and your adrenaline is up, you're able to finish things, and you're very sore. That's how Nick described it. So it could be everything from it's certainly not a high ankle sprain, which are the most difficult to deal with. Those are multi-week injuries. It's probably a low ankle strain and sprain, and that could be a 1 to 2 week injury. And he might fight through it. But because of his style of play, I think it makes it more of a question mark than anything else. And the fact that if he's limited, we talked about this with Les Bowen, as I said, we brought it up. It's not about, even missing a game. It's about, can he be effective if he's limited? Because ultimately he's going to get banged up. And then, boom, it happens. It's funny how that works. Just the way you play this game. I gave you a Jim Marshall story. I'm going to give you a Mick Tingelhoff story today, Jody. Mick, we were talking about guys who played consecutive games. So he was a Hall of Fame center. Played, we talked about Jason Kelce, who's got this ridiculous games played streak. Well, Tingelhoff was a 240 playing center in the NFL. And he had a backup, and his name was Godfrey Zornbacher. I remember because
where can you spell that, please?
It's such an interesting name. So somebody was talking to Godfrey one day, and he called himself the third string center. He was the backup center, and the guy said, "Who's?" And the reporter asked him, "Who's ahead of you? Is there somebody I missed? I guess who's the backup center?" And he said, Tingelhoff and Tingelhoff hurt. The backup is Tingelhoff hurt because he's going to play. So he considered himself the third string center.
That's funny.
And there's Kelsey's very much like that. I don't even question. Jason left the game for the longest period in a very long time. And I thought he was going to be ultimately sit down, and all of a sudden he's back in there. And he's another guy we have to keep on. We have to keep an eye on. We have to keep an eye on Miles Sanders today, Jordan Howard today, Jason Kelce, Jalen Hurts. But of all of them, I'm pretty confident Jason Kelce's going to be the one that plays.
Agreed. I don't think we talked about this Monday. I know you made reference to the coach not knowing as to exactly whether he was or wasn't in and out of the lineup. How many plays did Jason come back for before Driscoll went out and Harbaugh came in and first filled in for Jason?
Not many. It might have been a drive or two, but it was kind of lucky that part of it worked out for the Eagles because it wasn't Kelce didn't come back in the game because Driscoll got hurt. He had already come back in the game, so that was the timing. It just lucked out a little bit for them. And Driscoll obviously officially went on injured reserve yesterday. So the Eagles, it's pretty amazing. I was going through it, Jody. We've got they're at 4 right guards, 3 right tackles, 2 centers, 3 left guards, 2 left tackles. That's what the Eagles have been at this season, and they still have unquestionably a top 5 offensive line. We'll see if it continues without Driscoll. I think it will. For some reason, they don't seem to think of Nate Herbig as a starter, but he's always been relatively effective when they put him in there. You might even see some Suo Peta. I don't know how they're going to go, but it's pretty amazing attrition for the second consecutive season. And they've really, really done a good job getting through it.
One quick offensive line question, then I do want to jump to something else with the Eagles and quarterback position. They elevated Brett Toth from the practice squad. You knew somebody was coming because of the injury to Driscoll and the fact that he's now on the IR for the entire rest of the season. I know you've told me before, and you get more information on it. You see it because you're there at practice. As limited it is, it's more so than I do because I never go down there. But your sources have told you that they really like the Coyote. They had a chance here to potentially elevate him because both he and Toth are on the practice squad, and Toth got the call. Positional decision. Toth is just further along. They still think Coyote's a ways away, kind of like maybe the way they looked at Mailata in his first year. Yeah, we love him. We got no chance to play him because he's so green. We're not putting him in there, but we still love his potential. I'm sure your sources are still giving you information if you're getting it on what the Eagles think of Coyote. Why Brett Toth, the guy getting elevated this week?
Brett's obviously ahead of him. Brett made the team and had a really good training camp, and then they had to do some roster maneuverings. So that's part of it. That he can play outside as well. They consider Coyote more of an inside player at this point, even though he played tackle in college. They consider Toth more of a tackle. So when you think about Driscoll, he had been playing right guard, but remember his natural position is right tackle. He's more of a tackle than a guard. So he served 2 purposes when I talked about those issues on the offensive line. He was also essentially the backup right tackle as well. If Lane Johnson went down.
Right. When Johnson was out, that's where he played.
Yeah. That would be the maneuver. So Toth can kind of do that as well. And they have Herbig and Opeta already to play inside. So I think it's more of having the extra guy who can play outside because as we all know, and we all talk about Andre Dillard, and I thought he played well at left tackle when he was forced in the lineup, but he can't play right tackle, and that part of it's not good. So they need that extra body who can play right tackle just as a contingency.
All right, J-Mac, 2 more things before we let you run and go get your COVID test in. About the Eagles quarterback position, Jalen Hurts injury, we'll find out later in the week. Is he going to play? Can he play and still be effective running the ball, or can he be effective if he is limited in his ability to play? We'll get some more good info on Jalen Hurts if he plays, and we don't even know. It could be a 0 as far as new information goes, or it could be something that we can add to the mix of the evaluation. I kind of feel bad because I'm a fan, and I almost compare it to a dating situation. Right now, as far as my relationship with Jalen Hurts and my evaluation of can he be the quarterback of the Eagles going forward, up until Sunday, I was feeling good about it. We had gone out on some seriously nice dates, and I was smiling. But I had never asked for exclusivity. We were still in the dating phase. Some people had already broken up with Jalen Hurts. Others had already proposed marriage to Jalen Hurts. I was still in the dating phase. And yeah, it wasn't a great date this past Sunday. So I do have a wandering eye. I'm sorry to say. I almost feel like I'm cheating on him, but since we're not exclusive, I think I can do that. We know the situation with all the quarterbacks who've been talked about. Could they be traded? Deshaun Watson doesn't want to come here. Oh, by the way, Russell Wilson looking a little old since he got back from the injury issue that he had. You and I both agree, no shot of Aaron Rodgers coming here. Let me run one by you. And I think we touched on this before, but let me double down on it. If Deshaun Watson is traded, his preference is to go to Miami. He said that. We know that they actually got a little further along in conversations than any other team for Deshaun Watson services. The owner made a request that had no chance of happening, basically torpedoed the talk by saying, I want him to settle all those suits ahead of time. Gave him like 2 days notice before the NFL trade deadline. Yeah, he was going to be able to settle all those things, Stephen Ross. Yeah, right, that was happening. But by the time next season rolls around, we'll certainly have more information about Deshaun Watson and his suits. And maybe the Dolphins do have the ability to pull a trade. Tua Tagovailoa has looked significantly better the last several weeks. He's at a quarterback rating of over 100 4 of the last 5 games. Dolphins have won 4 in a row. I have continue to be a huge Tua fan from the time he came off the bench to lead Alabama to a championship, making the biggest pass of the game to who, John McMullen?
Devontae Smith.
Devontae Smith, that's correct. So we know that connection works. I have been, I'll continue to be a Tua fan. If this Jalen Hurts thing is not resolved by the end of the year, we're sitting here and we're still going, yeah, but he's good. And he does things that no other quarterback can do. And we like that. But his percentage of completions, his ability to make all the throwing plays, I don't know. He didn't do enough of. What would you think if the Eagles decided to trade for Tua Tagovailoa?
It wouldn't bother me at all. From a personal standpoint, I don't think they're looking in that direction. I haven't heard anything that they had any interest when he wasn't playing as well as he's playing, as you mentioned right now, Jody. Never heard the Eagles connected with Tua. It didn't seem like they evaluated the player to the point where they would want to go in that direction. Because remember, if they want to move on from Jalen Hurts, they want to move on from somebody who they think is a significant upgrade. Bottom line, they want to move on for a top 10 quarterback. That's what they've been looking for. That's what they thought they had in Carson Wentz. That's what they think they need to win consistently, and they're probably right long term. They consider Deshaun Watson to be that player, that type of player, not the only one. They would have traded for Deshaun Watson if it were on the table, and Howie Roseman got the green light to do it. If he could pull it off, and there were a lot of extenuating circumstances with the legal stuff, but before you even get to the legal stuff, you can't get past the fact that, he didn't want to come to Philadelphia and he had a trade. He could block any trade. So it never got out of the gates. But from the player perspective, yeah, as I always call them, he's an FU player. They consider him an FU player. I do not think they consider Tua that type of player. And I don't even think they'll engage in conversations. I think in that kind of circumstance, they would continue on with another year of Jalen Hurts. But anything can change if he continues to play well. But if he continues to play well, maybe he's back in the mix in Miami. And they say, well, we don't want to deal with the headaches of Deshaun Watson. And maybe that's the butterfly effect the Eagles need, because you can say, I don't want to play here, I don't want to play here, I don't want to play here. But if the places you want to play don't want you, if you want to play, you're going to have to open up your mind and say, all right, I'll go here. So maybe that back door, so to speak, opens up for the Eagles. So a lot of moving parts, but the bottom line is I have not heard any interest in this organization in that particular player. So,
right. And I think
that is the bigger thing to me.
And you've got your finger on the pulse of that, so I take what you're saying is right on point. I just disagree with the Eagles. I think Tua is going to be. I think he's only going to get better. Had issues last year, got hurt this year. This is the first real good group of games that he's put together. I don't see any reason why he can't continue to do that and continue to get better. And you're right. We still got 5 or 6 games to go in this season, so there's that much more evaluation time. I think that the kid's going to be a Stone Cold winner in this league, and the Eagles should have a higher evaluation of him. But that's just me. This week's opponent, the Jets. Interesting thing, and I heard the D coordinator, JG, reference this yesterday, that they've got many sources to get information on the Jets. Number one is the Jets tape from their previous games played this year. Number two is the preseason game these two teams played. You're just looking for tendencies and plays that you're not necessarily the actual play level of the guys, because it's the final preseason game and a whole bunch of reserves that aren't even on the Jets or the Eagles anymore are out there making plays in that game. But also the joint practices they had together that you were in attendance for. Do these two teams know each other that well? We look at it from an Eagle perspective. Oh, they know the Jets. They had so many chances to look at the Jets. This is a major plus. Well, the Jets had the same chance to look at the Eagles just as much because both teams were there and on the field. How much of the knowledge between these two teams of each other is a factor in Sunday's game?
I think a little bit, but I remember talking to Nick about that at those practices, actually. And he said, by the time we do play him, it's going to be whatever it is, week 13 or, game 13, exactly. Whatever it is. But, and he's like, there's a lot of moving parts. Things are going to change. They're going to be different. We're going to be different. So, I mean, there's some things, the philosophy. They know the philosophy of the organization with Joe Douglas very well. And, they understand what we were just talking about quarterbacks. Now, the Eagles loved Zach Wilson. If they could have figured out a way to get up in the draft to get Zach Wilson, that would have been the guy that they would have gone in that direction. But they knew early in the process that he was out of the realm of possibility. So they loved him as a player coming out. I don't. How many quarterbacks have the Jets used? 4, Jody?
Oh yeah, Zach, Mike White with his 400-yard game, who is going to be the next savior of the organization. Oh, he threw 4 interceptions the game thereafter. Joe Flacco and Josh Johnson have all played for the Jets this year.
So they have so many, moving parts during the season, and obviously. But, Robert Saleh from his time in San Francisco, Mike LaFleur, what he wants to do. So, yeah, I think they know him better. I think they know the Jets better typically than you would know an out-of-conference opponent. You look at Denver, a team you go out to Denver once every 8 years and, you only play him very sparingly. You don't know that much about him. Because of the interesting preseason relationship that has gone on forever between the Eagles and Jets, they do know a little bit more about each other than typical out-of-conference foes. I will say that.
All right, last one, and then I know you got to get out of here because you got to go down and get tested. Tapping into your always impressive knowledge of the general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles, Howie Roseman. It's draft day 2022. And the Eagles, let's say the season winner right now, kind of a weird thing. I saw this yesterday. I meant to bring it up on the show, didn't. If the draft were to take place right now, the Eagles would be drafting at numbers 8 and 9. They're picking the Dolphins.
Yeah, it's like the Jersey Turnpike draft. What do we got? Jets got 2, Giants got 2, Eagles got 2.
Jets are right now 4 and 5. The Giants right now are 6 and 7, and the Eagles right now are 8 and 9. You're gonna have 6 picks in the draft made by only 3 teams. 2 teams, 3 different teams with back-to-back picks in the first 10 picks of the draft. Let's say we're sitting at pick number 3, and the Jets are picking at 4, and the phone rings in Eagles war room. And it's Joe Douglas calling his old buddy, Howie Roseman. And he said to Howie, listen, Howie, we got 4 or 5. We've got some leanings, probably know where we're going to go. You're sitting there at 8-9. We'll give you Zach Wilson for 8 and 9. Did the Eagles make the deal?
Boy, I would tell you, the Zach Wilson coming out this year. Yes, they loved Zach Wilson. I think that was the number one player on their board, with the exception of Trevor Lawrence, because Trevor Lawrence wasn't on anybody's board because obviously everybody knew he's going number one. So he was scratched off. And that was the one player at obviously the most important position that they considered. We talked a lot, up to the draft and how it shook out, about Justin Fields. And for whatever reason, they didn't evaluate him in the same type of category, same type of level. I would say yes, but I don't know why the Jets would do that. So I'll
give you the Jet logic. I'll play Joe Douglas. They made a mistake. Not that Zach Wilson can't play, that Zach Wilson isn't as good in LaFleur's system as they thought he was going to be. That they evaluated his abilities and what he could do and fit into LaFleur's system, and it just hasn't been a fit the way that they thought it was going to be. Still can tell the world that they love the player, they love the talent. The Eagles are getting a hell of a player. It's just we miscalculated what Zach does well and what we want to do as an offense. That's the way they would sell it, that they would be taking. Yeah, they're the second pick in the draft. 1 year later, you're trading away for the 8th pick in the draft. Now the balancer, of course, is the 9th pick in the draft. So you're getting 2 for 1, but you're trading down from 2 to 8. I think the Jets could sell it if they wanted to go there. And I've heard some rumblings to the effect that that is, at least in part, in place. That the Jets might actually think about something like that. Now, the whole thing with to be able to do something like that is they got to love one of the quarterbacks in the draft. They have to believe that if they don't think Wilson's a fit for their system, that Kenny Pickett is or Matt Corral is, that some quarterback in the draft this year is, because they're going to have to turn around and replace Wilson. If that's the case, you think Howie Roseman would pull the trigger?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Eagles like the player. I can't imagine why they would look at this season and say he's, unsalvageable. Similar, to Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he's not playing well, obviously, but people realize the situation. They realize, it's not like he doesn't have the talent to succeed. And I always say you gotta keep developing players that have to be in the right system, the right scheme. I think the Eagles would talk themselves into it. So many moving parts. I mean, the Jets as a whole, I can't imagine them doing it because, they swung. It's not Joe Douglas's fault, but you have Sam Darnold as a top 5 quarterback. You have Zach Wilson as a top 5 quarterback. You're going to go
one more time. Jump back into the pool again. Come on, let's go.
Now, people move faster today than they ever have. Now, even going back 10 years, I would say, no way, Jody. No way a team is going to admit a mistake. And by the way, I don't even agree with that. If you think you made a mistake and you're clear, it's best to move on as quickly as possible. But we know that's just not realistic, or it had not been realistic in the NFL world for many, many years. Teams do move quickly and more quickly than they ever have before. But boy, this organization as a whole, I can't imagine they would give up on the kid that early. I would start to think if Robert Saleh and Mike LaFleur are saying that behind the scenes, they better be careful, because they'll start thinking they made a mistake with the coaching staff more than the kid.
I do think that's in play, and that's what the Eagles will be facing this week, the Jets. And oh, by the way, 3/4 of the season in, almost. It doesn't look like the time to move on from Sam Darnold decision was the wrong one, because Sammy hasn't done next to anything down in Carolina.
Yeah, real quick, Jody, though. Nick Sirianni, trust me, he wants a pocket quarterback. He wants somebody who could sling the football like Justin Herbert or something like that. But he's making do with what he has at the quarterback position. Some weeks better than others. That's your job as a coach. If you're saying you're not even a year in and you got injuries on top of it, and you're saying, oh, the second overall pick isn't it doesn't fit my offense. I'm showing Mike LaFleur the door, to be honest.
And there are some people that think that should be the case up in New York. All right, last one. I keep dragging this out with you. I need the John McMullen opinion. The John McMullen evaluation, not what the Eagles would do, not what information you have about who the Eagles like, who the Eagles don't like. I'm just asking you, John McMullen, you're the general manager of the Eagles. Here are the two trades on the table. Which one are you making? Zach Wilson for number 8 and number 9, or Tua Tagovailoa for just number 9. Let's say you can negotiate. They ask for 8. You tell them, no, you're only getting 9. You got to give up. Maybe you could even get them for that Colt pick. I doubt it. But if you got to give up the middle pick of the 3 Eagle first-round picks right now, which trade would you rather pull the trigger on? Wilson for 2 high ones or Tua for 1 high one?
Can I take door number C?
If you can create it for me and it can be on par with those 3 trades.
I have no moral compass. I take Deshaun Watson for pennies on the dollars when he realizes the door is shut. Otherwise, he waives the no trade clause, and I go get the proven option. In other words, I don't want either of those guys. My personal evaluation, I don't want either of those guys.
Okay. And, by the way, if this is deal or no deal, that's a no deal because Deshaun Watson says it's a no deal. I understand it can trade somewhere down the road, change, but to this point, he said no deal.
I'm lobbying.
You can continue to lobby. Guess what? You're gonna get used to another Jalen Hurts year, buddy. Because if you're turning down both Zach Wilson and Tua Tagovailoa,
I would take another bridge Jalen Hurts year rather than go after. And I know this team really likes Kyle Hamilton. I don't know if they're going to be in a position to get him. That's the safety from Notre Dame. Yep. I think that might transform their defense a little bit because he would be the type of player, the moving part that you can move all around. I'd rather just stand put, wait for the quarterback I really, really like. Now you're saying you were asking me.
Yeah.
Like I said, the Eagles really, really like Zach Wilson coming out. I don't know if anything has changed from that perspective. So they might think differently.
Fair enough. J-Mac, may your nasal passages be as clean as they need to be.
Yeah, that's always a sneaky worry. I shouldn't have anxiety over that.
No. All right. I had to go get, I'm drinking coffee today, as you can see, by the way. I had to go get my blood work done yesterday. I always get in there. All they're going to do is prick, boom, get out the door. But you never know what they're going to find. Then I'll find out from my doctor on Friday when I go see her. All right. J-Mac, we'll do it again tomorrow. Thanks, bud. That's John McMullen here with us on Birds 365. All right, we're kind of strapped today. A little miscommunication. Who's going to be on, who's not. We're pretty damn confident that Jason Cole is going to join us next hour. NFL writer, Hall of Fame voter. Very good spot to have on. But that's next hour. The boss man is coming in. I guess, well, when in doubt, turn to the boss, right? It's kind of his show, so he's got to be able to pick it up and run with the ball when you throw it to him. Joe Krause is going to join me next right here on Birds 365.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. 1 free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messon Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messon Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you. Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
You got a Wednesday edition of Birds 365. We're kind of shaking up the lineup a little bit, like the Birds. Don't know who's going to be playing this week. Injury issues with the Eagles, quarterback, running back with Miles Sanders, Jason Kelce and his knee. Yeah, even though Kelce, everybody knows Kelce's hurt, but he's going to play too because he's just one of the all-time tough guys. Speaking of tough guys, joining me for the next 7 minutes here on Birds 365 is the boss man, Joe Krause, from his comfortably ensconced studios in the Krause network. Good flags you got going. What are the flags behind you right now, Mr.
The
Krause?
U.S. Army flag and, of course, the flag for the greatest country in the world, the American flag, Jody Mack. And listen, as I'm sitting in the green room, by the way, waiting to jump on, I finally realized, listening into your last couple of minutes with John McMullen, that I sit here as the Gardner Minshew of Birds 365. I'm quirky. I can't throw the deep ball.
Okay.
But I can dink and dunk my way through the segment to get to the finish line. And that perhaps is what we'll see on Sunday. Should Gardner Minshew get some playing time in the game against the Jets. So that's my thought as I jump in here on a Wednesday morning.
I like a lot of the parallels between you and Gardner Minshew. I think they're very much on point. You got to work on that facial hair because he's got one of the most recognizable mustaches in football, and you have none, Mr. Well-shaven guy. But I do I see the comparison with where Gardner is at and what he's going to be asked to do this week if he comes in as we're asking you to do what you need to do. How much concern do you have that part of the decision Eagles will have to make on who's going to be their quarterback on Sunday is, a different quarterback, a stay-at-home quarterback, a pocket quarterback. We've got a good offensive line. We could probably protect Jalen. But we count so much on his running ability. If we can't do that, because, yes, the ankle is sturdy enough that we think he can drop back and pass, but we don't believe he can take off and run for 70 yards like he has a bunch of times over the last few weeks. How much of a fact do you think that is, that the decision's going to come down and go, well, if he can't run, who gives us the best chance to win? It's the mustache man, Gardner Minshew. Do you think that's going to be in play on Sunday?
Well, I think if it's in play, and I talked with John McMullen about this on Football 24/7 on Monday. We did not do a coordinator's day Football 24/7 yesterday, but I did talk with McMullen about it on Monday. The weapons, Jody Mack, that Jalen Hurts has on this offense are just not fair. They do not give Jalen a legitimate chance to prove how good or how bad he is. And that was evident in the game on Sunday. So my initial answer or thought to your question is, if it's Gardner Minshew, who doesn't have the mobility and the ability to extend the play, Gardner can at least make a quicker decision than Jalen and get the ball out quick. Now, he might not get it deep, but he'll get the ball out quick. The question is, will it be Dallas Goedert? Will it be Devontae Smith? And who will be on the end, or who will be on the receiving end of Gardner Minshew's decision? But at the end of the day, it's the same. They're two different quarterbacks, but they are the same. When you line up with the talent that this team has offensively in the skilled positions, that's what you're going to get.
It is. They're asking Jalen Hurts right now to carry a pretty heavy load because the offensive weapons around him are only okay. And we're specifically talking about wide receivers because the running game's good. If they get Jordan Howard back this week, he's been on a great roll. It just between the tackles, north-south running. Boston Scott had been fine up until he put the ball on the ground this past weekend against the Giants, and Miles Sanders is what he is. He's a home run hitting back, and he's going to hit some home runs, but he's also going to have some plays where he gets caught behind.
You know, that first play regarding Miles Sanders of the game, Jody Mack, against the Giants, the very first handoff to Miles Sanders may have went for a yard or whatever it was, but Miles does not like, as we know, to run behind the tackles and hit the hole. He's dancing, looking for that home run every single time. Now, I do think somebody in that game, after that first run, came up to Miles Sanders and said, run the damn ball between the tackles, run right behind Jordan Mailata, and just get us yards. And that's what I liked so much about Jordan Howard over the last couple of games before he was injured. Not only did he run angry, but he ran straight north-south. And that's what I don't like about Miles Sanders. But yeah, he's a talented running back. Is he a great running back? I don't think so.
Yeah, but do you think Jordan Howard's a great running back?
Well, for this offense, I think Jordan Howard gets them what they need. I think Jordan Howard gets them 3 or 4 yards.
Oh, but boss man, that wasn't the question. I'll repeat it for you. Is Jordan Howard a great running back?
No, he's not.
No. Well, then.
But is he better than Miles Sanders?
Yeah, I don't think he's he's a better fit right now for what the Eagles want. I think Miles Sanders
that's what they have, Joe.
A much more talented running back.
Yeah, I mean, Miles is capable of getting more yards, but Jordan Howard is capable or is a better fit for this offense. That's what I like more about Jordan Howard. Given the dynamic of who lines up on offense behind arguably the best, one of the top 3 offensive lines in football, despite being banged up and the moving parts, I like Jordan Howard more than I like Miles Sanders.
That's a fair way to look at it. I still have faith in Miles Sanders. I think he's a very good back. I think he's going to be there back next year, and I think they're going to have a productive running game next year with Miles Sanders if he stays healthy. Some people are down on Miles. I'm not. Doesn't take away from what the Eagles have been able to do when Miles out of the lineup. They've been phenomenal, Jordan Howard and Boston Scott. And remember this, a lot of it has to do with the fact that they've got a quarterback who can rush for 60 or 70 yards on any given week. It isn't like Jordan Howard has got the highest per carry average in the National Football League. He's got a good one, certainly one no one saw coming when he was on the practice squad 2 months ago. But a big part of the Eagles' successful running game, these 200-yard rushing games they keep putting up, is the fact that they got a QB who gets all those yards. And I think he could get those yards, whether it's Jordan Howard, who's back there in the backfield with him, or Miles Howard, or Boston Scott, or Kenny Gainwell. Jalen Hurts is going to take off and do what he's going to do no matter who's in the backfield with him.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I definitely agree with that, but it still comes down to, as I sit here and I listen and I watch and evaluate and learn from the experts, it still comes down to the talent and the weapons, Jody Mack, that the Eagles don't have on offense. Jalen Hurts is going to be the starting quarterback in 2022.
You think so?
Well.
You're
even if he's not
there.
Even if Jalen is not. Go back to when Jalen was drafted and Carson Wentz was the quarterback. If you don't have weapons, or in Carson's case, the offensive line couldn't protect him, you're not going to be able to sustain yourself offensively in the National Football League. That's just the way it works. And they don't have enough talent on offense, or they don't have enough weapons to be different or to change when they need to change.
Just a quick check of the stats. Yards per carry this year for the Eagles. Boston Scott 4.7, which is a damn good number. Don't kid you. 4.7 is a pretty damn good number. He would be fourth on the Eagles. Third would be Miles Sanders at over 5 yards per carry, 5.2. Yeah, they got the Jordan Howard leading running back yards per carry at 5.4, but the leading rusher for the Philadelphia Eagles is at 5.7. Their quarterback, Jalen Hurts. So you need to keep that in mind anytime you evaluate the Eagle running game. We always want to think of the running backs. Well, the Eagles have an extra running back on every single play, and his name's Jalen Hurts because he carries the ball like a running back and is productive like a running back. He's the most productive running back the Eagles have.
Well, that's not a bad thing, no, right? You don't think that's a bad thing?
Here's the only downside to it, and I think it some people we get it here in Philadelphia because we watch Eagles week in and week out. We know how important he is. People will just look up Jalen Hurts' quarterback ranking. I believe he's now 28th in the National Football League after the bad week that he had last week. Quarterback ranking of under 20, 17 and change. My God, that's bad. He's dropped down. I think he's 28 out of 32 starting quarterbacks, which is not good. But that doesn't take Jalen's ability to make plays with his legs into consideration. It's a passer rating. Him running the ball is not passing, but that's an asset the Eagles have in addition to their offense that the only team in the NFL has anything like it is the Ravens with Lamar Jackson. So I think you just need, when you're evaluating Jalen Hurts, and you said you already think he's pretty much locked in for 2022, his ability to run is a key element in potentially going that way. But here's a problem. And, hey, it took 13 weeks to rear its ugly head. If you're going to run it as much as Jalen Hurts does, there is that great a chance for injury. And we're going to have to deal with it this week leading up to the game. He's got an ankle that's bothering him. That's just a given. You have to factor that in. If you're going to have a quarterback who plays the game like Jalen Hurts, you're not going to go through the season 16, 17 games now and know he's going to take every snap every single week. You just can't have that kind of confidence level like you do with other quarterbacks around the league because he's putting his body at risk every week.
It's been beaten to death, in the last 24 to 48 hours, or since actually starting here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel on the live postgame show with Gunnar, Mark Farzetta, and Devin Caney. The Jalen Reagor drops in the end zone. Greg Ward dropped the pass in the end zone that, hey, scouts will tell you if the football hits you in your hands, you should catch the football. So if you believe that to be accurate, Greg Ward dropped a touchdown. Jalen Reagor dropped those two at the end, which both passes from Jalen Hurts to Jalen Reagor hit him right in the hands, right where they were supposed to be. Even the catch that Reagor made prior was thrown in the right spot. Reagor made the right play and got the football. So Jalen did enough with what he has to win that game. I don't fault Jalen Hurts because the Eagles lost to the Giants. This system that they have, or the cards that you're dealt with, are going to ultimately determine the results. And that's what we have, Jody Mack. That's where we are. Unfortunately, we're talent short at the positions to make big plays.
Jalen Hurts comes with peaks and valleys.
Yeah,
Some weeks he looks great, and you say, damn, there's our quarterback. Why are we even having this conversation? He's going to be our guy going forward. And then weeks like last week when he just wasn't finding open wide receivers. When he did, he forced a couple of balls. That's why he threw a couple of peaks. The peaks, every quarterback, every team with every quarterback, they have peaks and valleys. The Eagles' peaks and valleys with Jalen Hurts are a little bit more drastic than some other teams around the league. Would you agree with me that that's something that you really need to see between now and the end of the season? If we know what the peaks are, the best of the best that we've seen from Jalen Hurts, I don't even need to see that anymore. I just got to eliminate the valleys. I think that will do Jalen Hurts the best in his quest to become the Eagle quarterback going forward. Is you have to eliminate the valleys. You don't even have to peak up the way that he has on several weeks this year. I just don't think he can afford to have another game like he did this past week against the Giants. If he does, I think the Eagles are going in another quarterback direction there.
I agree with the statement and I agree with the theory, but if the pieces of the puzzle are the same, which they will be, you're going to get the same result. You're either going to continue to get peaks and you're going to continue to have valleys, or you're not. The only way you're not is to change the pieces. The Eagles do not have enough talent at the receiver position to run an offense that would be different than what we currently have. That's what I see. Again, I'm the Gardner Minshew. I'm on the sidelines listening with an earpiece. I'm listening to the plays that are being called. I'm watching it envelop in real time. You either have playmakers or you don't, Jody Mack. They don't have playmakers. They don't have enough playmakers.
Enough playmakers. That's the exact right way to say it. All right, Krause, last thing. We're going to get Jason Cole up here to join us next.
Back to the experts, bro.
I need
the experts.
I wouldn't even begin to ask you to take your Kanga hat off, but I'm going to ask you to take your Eagle-colored green glasses off. Who's got a better green, Jets or Giants?
Jets or Giants?
Which color green, the Jets green or the Giants green? Who's got the cooler green, Jets or Giants? Jets or Eagles? What am I saying? God damn it, my bad. That's why he's looking at me. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking down at me.
What
is Jay talking about? Eagles or Jets? Who's got the better green?
Jets, Jets.
That would be
Jets.
correct. Sorry, Eagle fans, but
no doubt about it. Eagles keep playing around with the green. They can't get it right. Jets have the right.
That would
green.
be correct. Now the Eagles have the better team. They got the better talent. They're in the better standings, and they may have the better future going forward. Jets still got the better green. Krause, great stuff. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate
All right,
you.
Jody Max. See you next. Hey, don't forget, like, share, and subscribe.
Make sure you do like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. Even to the lesser green. We are here on Birds 365. All right, Jason Cole, NFL writer, joins us next here on Birds 365.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messon Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messon Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Wednesday edition of Birds 365. Jody Mac playing solo today. Johnny Mac already on, got COVID testing. Jeff Kerr. We'll get Jeff up either Thursday or Friday with a guest spot here from CBSSports.com. Oh, but we got a good guest with us right now. One of my favorite NFL writers. He's been doing it for years. His perspective on the NFL is one of the best we get here on Birds 365. You see him on the JAKIB Media. Sometimes he defaults over to that Cilio show from time to time. We're glad when he joins us here on Birds 365. Jason Cole jumps aboard with us. How you been, Jason?
I'm great. What's going on, Jody?
Not a mooch. Let me start here, since I know you're a Florida guy, and I got some responses on the stream.
Okay.
Jalen Hurts opened the conversation again this week about the Eagles quarterback position in 2022. He had a bunch of nice weeks in a row. Eagles offense was rolling. He was a big part of the running game, which had become the best in the NFL. Here come the breaks. Lousy game this past week. So people start worrying about, where are the Eagles going for quarterback next year? I threw out this scenario that if Deshaun Watson eventually gets his legal issues dealt with to a level that a team would jump back in the fray and pay the going rate to get him out of the off the Texans roster. The team that it seems he most wants to go to, and he's got a no-trade clause in his contract, is the Dolphins. They got down the road on trade conversations. Stephen Ross at the last minute saying, and we need him to clear up all those lawsuits first before we acquire him. Pretty much put a kibosh on the conversation at that point. But let's say we're down the road a little bit and it becomes more viable. I'm a Tua Tagovailoa fan, and he's played really well 4 weeks in a row, 4 out of the last 5. He's had a QB rating of over 100. Dolphins are winning games. If the Dolphins are still married to getting Deshaun Watson, what do you think the going price is going to be for a guy like Tua? What would the Dolphins need in return for him on the open market this offseason?
Well, I think it's probably going to be a mid to low 1 plus would be the price that they were aiming to get. Or what's the initial asking price going to be? It'll be some absurd thing like 2 1s plus something else. But once they've got the Watson trade in place, the price becomes lower, right? Because they're going to want to they're going to want to deal with the problem. And the other thing that will determine the price is what's the market for him. Now, there are some people who, yourself, who like him. His completion percentage is good the last few weeks. He's getting rid of the ball quicker. His accuracy is starting to show up. The downside for Tua is he doesn't seem to attack the downfield very well. If he's not in an offense that doesn't have a lot of weapons, Is he going to be able to create on his own? Is he the kind of running quarterback that people thought he was coming out of Alabama? I think the answer to that is no, because I don't think he's regained his speed from all of the injuries between the ankle and the hip injuries, but he's okay. So I think there's some variables built into what the price is going to be, depending on how you view Tua. If you're a fan of Tua, you might be willing to pay a 1+. If you're not, it may be a 2 and a 3 or a 2 and a 4, something like that.
Right. Just hypothetically speaking, I was having a conversation with Johnny Mack, my usual partner, in the first segment. The Dolphins are going to ask for one of the Eagles' 2 higher first-round picks. Eagles going to have 3 picks this year. Right now, they've got the Dolphin pick, their own pick, and potentially the Colts pick, which is all but a done deal that the Wentz pick is going to end up being a 1. I think the Dolphins would ask for one of the 2 higher ones. They might have to settle for the lower one. If it's a Colts one, it might be middle of the first round, which is not a bad spot either. Yeah, I would be willing to give that up if I were the Eagles, but I'm a bigger Tua fan than most. How big a Jalen Hurts fan are you? We haven't had you on in a couple of weeks. Got a chance to see a little bit more of Hurts, the upsides, the peaks, and the downsides, the valleys this past week against the Giants. Do you think he's a viable quarterback going forward as a starter for the Eagles or any team in the NFL?
Look, I just don't, I'm not a big believer in the accuracy on a consistent basis. And I think the 2 most important things that you have to be as a quarterback are they're kind of part and parcel. You have to be really, really accurate, and you have to make really good decisions. I don't know that he's very accurate. The decision making is okay. So I see a guy who, there are moments when he gets outside the pocket because of his athletic ability, because he can run a bit, and because he does have a strong arm, where he can do some really interesting things, and he can exploit some defenses that are over aggressive, right? He's really good at that. But if you're talking about, hey, the ball's got to be out, 1, 2, 3, it's got to go, 1, 2, 3, it's got to go, 1, 2, 3, it's got to go, boom. We're talking about 1.5 seconds to 2.5 seconds. I'm not. I start to get uncomfortable with him, and I think that there were a lot of things that were done when he was in college, when he was winning, especially at Alabama, were done to cover up his liabilities. And when you get to the NFL, it's harder and harder to consistently cover up your liabilities.
All right. Let's say the Eagles can't convince Deshaun Watson to come here, and they're not as big a fan of Tua Tagovailoa as I am. And certainly Aaron Rodgers isn't coming here, and I doubt Mr. Wilson is coming here either. This year's draft class, I know you're an astute observer of not only the National Football League, but you keep your eye on the college football game as well, and for the guys who will eventually become pro quarterbacks. What do you think of the level of the quarterback crop coming out in this year's draft?
I don't think it's very good.
Yeah.
I think that this is a bunch of guys. This reminds me of the year that Boomer Esiason came out in the draft, where your best guy was probably a 2nd-round pick. Now, they will end up forcing these guys up into the 1st round because there's such desperation. There's not a single guy out there who I say, wow, like I see that he's ready to play in the NFL. And I think he's going to be an impact guy. I just don't think it's a very good draft at all.
Yeah, I might like him a little bit more than you do, the way that you're sounding, but we're not far from being on the same page here. Right. I don't think there is a stud franchise, unquestioned, this guy's going to step in and raise the level of your organization type guy.
If you're Philadelphia and you got 3 picks in the 1st round, you're going to end up with 3 picks in the 1st round in almost all likelihood. Because you're not going to have to trade up, a boatload of picks to get to the number 1 or 2 or 3 pick. I just don't see that that's going to happen in this draft to get a quarterback. If your desire is to get a quarterback, you may trade up for a guy like Hutchinson. If you love that guy, but generally, I don't think people people don't extend themselves like that for defensive players or non-impact position players.
It's one of the reasons why I think the Dolphins, if they do pursue Deshaun Watson, could do well for Tua, because if a team is looking to change their starting quarterback, I'll take Tua over anybody in this upcoming draft, and it's not even close. All right, let me ask you an NFL question, Jace. Thanksgiving Day, they had what I called a very typical NFL day. You had two pretty poor teams playing poor football, but it was a great game because it went right down to the wire. Field goal on the last play wins the game. You had two good teams playing exciting football, and it was great. It hung to the last minute. Phenomenal plays throughout the game on the offensive side for both the Raiders and the Cowboys. And then the Sunday nighter, you had a team that looked dynamite, and that was the Bills. The Saints are coming apart at the seams because of injuries, but you get that in the NFL too. It was such a prototypic NFL day across the board. I thought, yeah, this showcases for the casual fan that just jumped in for the day. And I said, what's the NFL all about? You got a really good view of it if you watch all three games. The other view you got were flags aplenty. Every single play, you got to look for, is there a flag on this play? What's the flag on? Who's getting hurt? And I don't know if the NFL has a referee problem or an adjudicating problem. Is it the guys who are calling these penalties, or is it the league that's telling them they got to call these many penalties? Or is it, shut up, Jody, they did such great rating numbers, they don't even care what you think about refereeing and or the way we call the game. Does the NFL have a problem?
No, they don't. I mean, look, some games are just going to be like that. Okay, you're occasionally get a game where, what was it, 28 penalties? Was it in the Dallas game?
Cowboys Raiders, yeah,
Cowboys Raiders. I can't remember the number, but I mean it was in the yardage, and yeah, it's abysmal. It's dreadful to watch. Okay, I don't pay. Like, I've had this conversation with any number of NFL execs where it's like, I don't buy a ticket to watch a guy referee. And like, a referee should be like a great waiter. Okay, you go to a really nice restaurant, you have a great meal, the service is seamless, so that you have a wonderful conversation, you're enjoying the meal, everything's going well, you don't think about the service, right? The game is just run. Okay, but sometimes in the, I think it's Marv Levy said, you get over officious jerks, and sometimes the game is just sloppy. The game should not be that sloppy at this stage of the year. If you're telling me this was week 1 or week 2 or even week 3, okay, I get it. By Thanksgiving Day, the games should not be this sloppy. Even Thursday night games or Thursday day games on a short week, they shouldn't be this sloppy. But it was. I don't know that, in all those penalties, I don't know that there were a lot where you would say that was a terrible call.
True.
Okay, they were obvious calls, and you got to make the calls. So all of that is to say, some games are just worse than others. Don't overreact to one or two games. I don't think it's this huge trend. Are we always going to complain about officiating? Yeah, we're always going to complain about officiating. That's just the nature of what we do. We bitch about it all the time.
Yes, and I think we're right to, but the NFL is just going to go.
I don't know how you fix it. But I say the thing about it is, people talk about full-time officials. Okay, I'm not sure, what does that mean. All right, like like, you don't have a lot of games that you can, like, okay, we're finding 40 hours of work for a guy to do during the week. There's not enough games to go around. Okay, are you saying that somebody is a permanent official because you've got him working college games and pro games? And by the way, maybe he's like Gene Steratore and he does college basketball as well, because he's made his life into being a referee and all those other things. Okay, you could maybe do some stuff like that. But even then, it's not really a full-time job. It's not like being a Major League Baseball umpire. Those guys are full-time. and they're terrible too. So
Right. And they
what do you
kind of
do?
have to be because the Major League Baseball season is an everyday thing. Pretty
Right.
much
So
6
that's
out of 7 days a week. The
that's
NFL is a
full-time.
1 day a week thing. So full-time referees is not the answer. Yes, you and I absolutely.
Well, I
agree
just
on
don't know how. I mean, you can do it. You can hire somebody to be a full-time referee, but other than watching video of games, which those guys already do, I don't know what you're making them do. Like that's the thing that I just sit there and go, okay, what does that mean?
Right. Report to Secaucus so you can watch that many more hours of video and go back over the calls. I don't think it changes things much at all. Jason Cole, I guess, you're on Birds 365. All right. Specifically that Cowboy Raider game, specifically the Cowboys. Coming out of that game when they got beat, or I should say leading up to it, a couple of guys whose opinions I respect in the week leading up to had said they thought the Cowboys had a chance to be the best team in the NFC. I woefully disagreed. And then after the game, I kind of said, see, told you so. I think the Cowboys are at best the fourth best team in the NFC. I certainly think the Cardinals are better. I think the Packers are better. I think the Bucks are better. That was a
San
bad game.
Francisco, the Rams, they're all kind of in that bag.
Right. Do you think the Packers, Cardinals, and Bucks have separated from that next group the same way I do?
Marginally so. I think that the Cardinals, losing JJ Watt hurt them defensively quite a bit. But I think they're overall the most talented. I think the Cardinals are the most talented team in the NFC when healthy. Even at this point, even after losing JJ Watt, they're still. The problem is, Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins aren't out there on a consistent basis right now. So you're saying, what are they really? Okay. But if those guys are on the field and they're healthy, yeah, I like that team best of all of them. Marginally more than Tampa, but Tampa's a veteran. Tampa is your team that has, what do they have, 19 guys who are in their 30s. So they know how to play. Like when the playoffs start, Tampa will be focused and ready. All the 17 games that you lead up to it, when you have that many veterans and that many guys who've been around that long, they get a little bored. They know when they have to turn it on and when they don't, and they'll be ready to turn it on when the time is right. Green Bay, it's all about the quarterback. And it's just is the quarterback sharp? Is the quarterback ready? Is the quarterback, has he done whatever it is mentally that he needs to do to get himself ready? Because the dude's just different. He's just really, really different.
He is a different dude, but he is also as talented as they come. And yeah, he's got him right there with arguably the best record by the time the season is over and done with. The road to the Super Bowl could run through Lambeau Field. All right, over in the AFC, who's the best team there?
Oh, it's Kansas City. Don't get caught up in the the records. They have the most talent by far. They're the most dangerous team out there. When they get hot for a 15-minute or 20-minute stretch, they can just destroy people. Their problem is, and I think to a certain extent, we just talked about the Bucks. When you have all these older guys, they know how to turn it on. Sometimes they get a little bit bored in the middle of the season. I think the Chiefs are a little bit of the flip side, is that they're so young, that they're so confident that, okay, well, we will just turn it on when we have to. No, you have to push the pedal a little bit harder on a consistent basis, and you have to be really sharp. And I think one of the issues with that team is, as much as Mahomes is a great, great player, and when he needs to be a great leader, he's a non-confrontational guy. So, and he doesn't go those guys and get in their face away from the field. I'm not talking about on the field, but away from the field. He does not go up to him and go, we need to be sharp today. We have to be on our game today. He just doesn't want to be a jerk. And sometimes when you're the leader, you got to be a jerk. Okay, and sometimes you have, and people say, well, that's got to come from Andy Reid a little bit, but the guy who holds the ball most of the time and determines the outcome of the plays, he's got to get in some people's faces every once in a while too. There's plenty of stories I can tell. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Dan Marino, John Elway. We can go Johnny Unitas. We can go all the way back in time, where a quarterback looks around, guys, and we'll go, guys, it is time, and it's now. If you're not on this page, you're off this field, or I'm shutting you out. That kind of thing. Sometimes you just have to be that guy.
All right, who do you think could give him that edge? Is that got to come from Andy Reid? Is it just an ingrained personality trait that he may not have, that he always wants to be everybody's friend? Can you get that? He's still a relatively young player. He's not a rookie anymore.
You can't get it. If you aren't that, you're not going to get it. And we have seen it. Like, they haven't played a really consistent game from minute 1 to minute 60 since week 4 of 2020 when they played Baltimore. And it was sort of look, you guys want to talk about Lamar Jackson and how great he is and how he's on my level and stuff. No. Let me show you what level is different. And I'm not saying it's all on Patrick Mahomes, but I would say that it emanates from Mahomes and trickles down to everybody else, as I've sort of discussed already. And it's like, okay, we can be down 14. We're cool. I'm good, and let me just, flex my muscles on the sideline and do that little stuff that I do. And we'll throw up, 20 points in 10 minutes. Right. And, and we dominate a game, and then we're, throw up 2 more touchdowns. We're up 17, game's over, blah, blah, blah. It's a lot harder to do that than you think. And I think it's a dangerous thing to fall back into that trap all the time.
Fair enough. We're talking to Jason Cole here on Birds 365. All right. Far be it from me to be a football cynic. I know I am. I know you are. We talk all the time about the fans who like to whine and moan about the referee. It's in every single one of us.
Yes.
But let's put cynicism aside for a second. How much would the NFL prosper if the Super Bowl pairing this year were the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New England Patriots? If it's Brady against Belichick for all the marbles at the end of this year, how high a rating could the NFL get?
I mean, look, it's going to be ridiculously high. But isn't it just degrees of the same, like, we know we're going to be way out here anyways, right? Okay, so we're going to be like way out here, and let's go get a step ladder and like go like another hand higher. I mean, they're already prospering. Okay, they're already blowing up media because they're the greatest thing that media has, right? It's the greatest show because it's ritualistic. It's once a week. It's exciting. It's it's all the things. It's organized violence. It's it's a gambler's paradise. Everything. The NFL game is perfect for everything that you want to do. Okay, from tailgating 3 hours before the game and having parties on a Sunday where you invite all your friends to sitting at home with 3 computer screens because you got to check what's my bet on the next play, right? Like it's got everything that you want, right? It's drama. It's a soap opera for men generally, right? It's and not to say that there aren't women fans, but generally this is a soap opera for men. So okay, if you make it Tampa and New England, does it add another level to it? Yeah, it does. But they're going to have the highest ratings for the year anyways.
Right.
So you get the highest rated. You get the highest rating by this much more. Okay, cool.
You compare it to themselves. Like, could they have the highest rated Super Bowl ever? They'll the highest rated show. You're right about that.
I think Brady Belichick does that, and I think it would be fun. At the same time, I think there's a certain amount of the audience who are like, God, we've seen this show so many times.
Yeah, they did play in week 4, but playing for the championship at the end of the season is a little bit more important than the game they played at week 4, which, oh, by the way, the Patriots lost and fell to 1-3 and have now won 6 straight games since and are vying for the best record in the AFC. Is this the best coaching job Belichick's ever done with Mac Jones?
No, the first Super Bowl that they won with Brady, coming in week 3. I mean, what's ever going to match that? I mean, there was a bunch of guys who people thought were nobodies. They had 22 guys that they signed that year as free agents and brought together. And you take a 6th-round pick out of Michigan that nobody knew who he was, and you turn that. I mean, that's a Cinderella story of all Cinderella stories. Mac Jones is a 1st-round pick. Everybody thought he was a 1st-round pick. So no, this is not his greatest coaching job. It's an awfully good one. I'll give him that. But they have, I know that the defensive players from the Patriots in that first Super Bowl run were a lot better than we really understood at the time. Guys like McGinnis and Bruschi and Vrabel and all the guys that they put together. Ty Law, who's a Hall of Famer. But it was still a season out of nowhere, because again, you replaced a 1st-round draft pick, a number 1 overall pick at quarterback, with a guy who was considered a nobody, an absolute nobody. This year, you have decent offensive weapons, and you have really good decent offensive weapons and really good defensive players. So he's got more talent on this team by a long stretch than he had in that first Super Bowl run. That's all. That's way
you went Wolverine in referencing Mr. Brady. Michigan is all but a lock to be in the college football playoff. They got to beat Iowa this week, which I think they will, and then they're going to be in the college football playoff first time ever. Coach Harbaugh staying put. He's not going to get into the mix. These other jobs, the dominoes have fell on a lot of these big college coaching jobs. I don't think he wants to coach in college anywhere else. What's the chance he comes back into the NFL this offseason?
Well, if he were to somehow win a championship at Michigan, it's one of those mission accomplished moments. And are you going to put it back together? And is somebody going to make you that amazing offer? Look, I'll rest on this. I think that Jim Harbaugh loves to compete no matter where he is, and will compete at the college level if it's presented, and do it happily. But I do believe that in his heart of hearts, he prefers to coach men. Okay. In other words, guys who are super serious about football on a regular basis, and aren't 18 to 22-year-olds. They're 23 to 35, 36-year-olds who the game is truly important to them, right? I think that that's his preference. And if somebody were to offer him enough money, he would do it. I think that the problem with Harbaugh is that he does come with enough sort of baggage. And I'm not saying really anything evil it's nothing Urban Meyer-esque, nothing like that. But he's high maintenance. He's a super high maintenance human being. Beyond I can look up at my ceiling and I could probably look up for 40 floors high maintenance, right? The stories I'm a Stanford grad, and the stories I've heard about him at Stanford just make you laugh. It's that about how high maintenance he is and how difficult he is to deal with. They've tolerated a lot of stuff at Michigan because they want him to succeed since he's a Michigan guy, and they paid him. And the other side is, I think some of his hubris has been knocked off, and it will come back now.
Oh yeah,
it'll be right there at the top. But it's been knocked down a peg until this year because of all the losses, especially the losses to Ohio State. So he has not had the ability to be the Jim Harbaugh, the high maintenance Jim Harbaugh that drives people crazy. He's
Should be
about
interesting to see if that's exactly what kicks
to. He's
in.
gonna go,
with
I'm back, baby, right now.
Yeah. All right, let me go full circle. Come back to the Eagles for a couple last questions. Cowboys, record-wise, say they're the best team in the division. I think they're probably going to finish as the best team in the division, win the division. Had the Eagles won this past week against the Giants, I would have continued to beat the drum that it's not impossible that week 18, it could be Eagles, Giants, Eagles, Cowboys for the division. That took a major hit and step backwards this week with their loss to the Giants. Who's the second? If we assume Dallas is the best team in the NFC East, who's going to be the second best when the season's over and done with? The Giants, who kind of undercut the Eagles this week, the Washington football team, who's won a couple of games in a row, and Taylor Heineke's actually looked pretty good in a couple of those games, or the Eagles. Who's the second best team in the NFC East?
Can I do like an amalgamation of all three teams?
Sure.
I think if you took all three teams, you'd have one decent team. I don't think like none of those teams scare me. They're all capable of doing something interesting from week to week. But there's not a quarterback in the bunch. Maybe Daniel Jones is that quarterback. You know, he's had some moments, consistency. I think Taylor Heineke is like that dude's playing on house money. Like he's sitting here going, I never thought I was going to get here, and I'll put it all out there and just wing it around. And Philly is, you know, betwixt and between because they're not sure if, you know, what they're doing at quarterback. You know, I think they're all sort of in the same boat because the quarterback position on each team is so much influxed. So I guess I would lean towards Washington. If the only reason, I guess, or the couple of reasons, is I think they're the best team defensively out of those three, and I think they have the best coach, who has been through the wars enough times that he knows how to get through those typical games. But man, it's just a matter of degrees. Like there's not a lot that separates these teams, and I don't say that to dodge the question. I say that because I just kind of look at him and, you know, like I'm bored by those three teams. Just really, really bored by those three teams.
Last year, week in and week out, I was calling it the NFC least. It's not as bad this year as it was last year. So at least they're trending up.
They're trending up, but they're still boring. Like, I mean, like if somebody put a gun to your head and said, you have to buy a ticket to one of these three teams that you just mentioned, which one do you want to buy a ticket?
Absolutely the Eagles for Jalen Hurts and Jalen Hurts only. Because he does something that you're not going to get I know every once in a while that the Giants QB can pull it down and run with it, but he can't do it this week. Look like he's actually hurt. And yeah, I've kind of enjoyed watching Taylor Heineke. I think he's got some nerve the way he plays the game. He's an okay guy. I don't think he's going to lead them anywhere, but
right. Like I got this chance. Let me he's playing like a guy coming out of nowhere should play like Taylor Heineke. He should just say, like, I'm going to do the best I can because this may be my one shot, right? You know, he's playing like Eminem, you know, sings in, you know, in that one song. I'm trying to remember the name of the song, but you know, like I'm putting it all out there. I'm just, you know, I'm giving you everything I have. This is my one shot. You know, feet fail me not. You know, that kind of thing. That's how he's playing the game, and I respect that. I don't think it's ultimately going to work out, and I don't think it's going to work out for any of those three quarterbacks. That's the nature of the beast, right? But at the end of the day, like, I don't want to have to spend money to watch any of these three teams play. I would spend money to watch Dallas play because they've got some stars and they're interesting. The other three, not so much. Just
good job. Good job by you weaving back to the Eminem analogy that you were working on and came up with it. Good job. All right. I want to tap into one more of your levels and areas of expertise, and that's Hall of Fame. You're one of the Hall of Fame voters, selectors. A couple of Eagle guys of note. Two that made the semifinal list that came out last week, and a couple of guys who aren't up for nomination just yet, but I want to get your down the road look at them as well. Ricky Waters, who had a nice little run here in Philadelphia, maybe more thought of as a 49er guy. Afterwards went to Seattle. He had his career, but we only acknowledge the time he spent here in Philadelphia because that's what we do here in Philadelphia. Anything else that happens anywhere else doesn't matter. What you do when you're here in Philly. But I'm going to ask you to evaluate all of Ricky Waters' career. Is he a Hall of Fame back?
That hesitation is a no. All right.
Okay.
If you hesitate that much, it's a no. But I will say it's really, really close. All right. There are moments where he was every bit of Edgerrin James. And it took Edgerrin James a while to get in the Hall of Fame, right? He didn't just walk in the first ballot. There were other times where Ricky was, I think just a compiler of stats, which can also be enough to get you in the Hall of Fame, right? If you compile enough stats, I call it the Don Sutton theory of getting in the Hall of Fame. Don Sutton, as a baseball player who I grew up watching in Los Angeles, was never an electric baseball player, right? But he won 324 games. You can't deny him. Ricky Waters is close to the same thing, but not quite there. And I would say that also applies to the next guy you're going to talk about, which is Eric Allen.
Correct.
Eric Allen is, with 50-something interceptions, one of the, very consistent. Rondé Barber is a compiler of stats at a very extraordinarily high level. To me, Rondé Barber is the best of those guys when you talk about compilers of stats, because he also has a ring. And I know that shouldn't be the only determining factor, but the point of this game is to win. The point of the exercise is to win a championship. He did that. Ricky also did that with San Francisco. So, it's kind of close. It's tough. It's a tough call.
Yeah, I think Eric Allen was a better quarterback than Rondé Barber. That's just me. And if I had a vote, I would vote yes for Ricky and no for Rondé. But that's why you guys have the job that you have, is you got to make those cutting edge decisions.
Well, and we'll have I'll say this. I think the discussion on those guys is going to be awesome this year. I look forward to the discussion because I can be persuaded. I always thought that John Lynch was a better player than Brian Dawkins, but I think the discussion on Brian Dawkins brought me around to, in that year when they were both on the ballot, Brian Dawkins was the better of the two. That's why Dawkins went in first. Lynch still eventually made it. But this is why the process, I think, is great. Is it flawed? Sure, it's flawed. Every system you can put out there is flawed. This one, I think, is pretty awesome because of the way that we do it.
I agree with your evaluation of it. The fact that it's different is what makes it good. Every other one, you send in your ballot. You guys actually debated and have advanced conversations on it, which I think raises the level of what you guys actually can do and accomplish. All right, quickie on two guys who aren't up for election this year, aren't going to be up for a while. One, I have no bloody idea when he's going to be up, but have certain traits that make them a possibility someday be a semifinalist and maybe be a Hall of Famer. I know you haven't done your homework on these guys because you don't have to. You can wait a couple of years.
Right.
Shady McCoy. Do you look at him as a potential Hall of Fame back?
Not really. Not yet. But I haven't studied his career numbers and, the exact thing that you just described. And by the way, Jody, if this thing goes out, unfortunately, my computer's not plugged in. I just got that low battery thing going. Okay. So hopefully we'll hang out here.
We got Shady, and the other one is the guy who's still playing, Deshaun Jackson. There are certain numbers Deshaun have put up that he's second all time in 50-yard touchdown catches in the NFL. Does he ever make the semifinal cut?
Don't bring me Deshaun Jackson. I thought you were going to bring me Fletcher Cox.
Fletcher's still down the road.
Yeah, don't bring me Deshaun Jackson. No, okay. Deshaun Jackson. Come on, Steve Smith. Bring me Steve Smith.
I think Steve Carolina. Smith. Do you think he's getting in this year?
No, I don't know that he's getting in this year. I said I don't know. Okay. But I love to argue about Steve Smith because that guy put everything he had out on the field. Deshaun, do you ever think that Deshaun Jackson put everything that he had out
No.
Did he, like, how many games did Deshaun Jackson take off? Now, he's a splendid player, okay? Don't get me wrong. If I've got him, I'm going to use him, and I'm going to use him effectively. But Hall of Fame? Come on. Like,
okay.
Deshaun got about 70% out of himself. I mean, and he doesn't like to go over the middle, and he doesn't like to, he wants to just run go routes all day, and he's good at it, but
in the highlight society in which we're living these days,
this is
those
okay.
50-yard touchdown passes get a lot of attention, Jace.
Don't ever bring me Deshaun Jackson. I want guys who put everything that they had into it. Balls to the wall. I gave you everything I had. We'll see if it's good enough. That ain't Deshaun Jackson.
Good for you. You stick to the way that you look at Hall of Famers. Continue to do so. We appreciate you coming on for a nice long time with us today. Jason, thank you very much.
Anytime.
Any projects you got coming up, books that we can be on the lookout for, when they're going to actually hit?
I've actually just finished a book. It's not coming out anytime really soon because I worked with it. It's actually a really cool project with a kid who named Robert Paylor, Paylor. Not football. He was a rugby player in college. Was paralyzed in a national championship game and has become a motivational speaker. He's a wonderful human being. It's fantastic. And then I've got 3 or 4 other projects, but I can't talk about those yet.
Well, please get back to me when the book with Jason Paylor is going to hit the shelves. We certainly want to get you on that week and give us that many more details on it. Thanks for coming on with us today. We'll talk again down the road, bud.
All right, dude. Thanks, Jerry.
That is Jason Cole, National Football League columnist, Hall of Fame voter. Man, he was dismissive of Deshaun Jackson. I don't think Deshaun Jackson's a Hall of Famer either, but I don't just give him the back of my hand and say, do not bring him to me. That was dismissive. But that's why Jason's good, because if he feels strongly about something, he's going to tell you that. All right, I'll come back, put a bow on the show here on Birds 365.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. 1 free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messon Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messon Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
7 on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
it is I was going to say Mac and Mac show, but it is Birds 365. Final couple of seconds, just going to put a bow on the show. Get ready for 22 hours from now when we come back. When I say we, I mean me and my partner, John McMullen, who was on with us earlier. If you didn't catch it, should get more information today. He's down at the NovaCare complex, has to get his COVID test so he can cover the game in MetLife Stadium on Sunday, which, by the way, as of right now, I am planning on being in attendance. I will be going to the Eagles and the Jets on Sunday as a fan, which should be fun. But Johnny Mac and I will be back tomorrow. Should know a little bit more about Jalen Hurts' status. The Eagles hopefully will be a little bit more forthcoming. I don't know how much they can because they won't have practiced yet, so they won't have a chance to have tested, but the doctors certainly will be on top of his ankle, and you'll get Jalen's estimation as to how ready he will be to play by Sunday. Got to thank a whole bunch of people today, certainly Johnny Mac, certainly Joe Krause for doing the fill-in thing, jumping in out of the lineup. You got a big injury, fill in Joe Krause, never miss a beat. And then Jason Cole, which for all my streamers here, my commenters on the stream, I know that Jason doesn't have the most high-energy voice ever to come down the pike. He's kind of a laid-back guy. I don't care. Shoot, I always believe that it's then my job to pick up the energy on a show. He is just so good and has such strong viewpoints, and I think on-point viewpoint. I don't care if his voice is boring or not. Some of the guys and gals on the stream were making fun of Jason and the fact that he's a little low energy. Who the hell cares? Listen to what he has to say, not how he has how he says it. I think Jason Cole is very good, and we will get him back up certainly before this season is over and done with. So I want to thank him too. Thank everybody who did stream in today. And let me tell you one more time, and I'll tell you 20 times tomorrow. Like the show. Please like the show. It'll help us out. It helps with the number of views that you get, and the algorithm. We need to up our algorithm game. I have no idea what that means, but that's what they tell me. So I'm going to ask you, our loyal viewers and streamers, to like the show and subscribe here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. All right, Mac and Mac back tomorrow. We will have Brian Costello, Bud, covers the Jets for the New York Post, known Brian for years. He will hop aboard to give us a little bit of a Jet perspective and find out who else joins us tomorrow here on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.